say when you use your skill, you earn a living. And when you use your skill, use your gift, you can earn a fortune. So CSCM or ISCA program conducted by ISCA, CSCM is a program like that, which will help you to find your gift as a supply chain professional. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all of you to our supply chain transformation program for, I think this is the seventh or eighth one we are doing. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm so delighted to be here. If some of you are wondering who I am the CEO of Success Zante. Success Zante is a platform whereby we represent world-class speakers like Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, Robert Kiyosaki, and at the same time, for the professionals like you, we brought the best certification program in supply chain in the world, conducted by ICA. So today we have exciting young gentleman who's gonna share his knowledge in this platform. Now, the purpose of doing this supply chain webinar or supply chain transformation webinar is to demonstrate the capability of our CSCM students. And today we have this wonderful gentleman who's going to share his knowledge. I know I'm repeating myself because I myself am excited to introduce him. I had an opportunity to talk to this gentleman. He is not only young at heart, age-wise also he is very young, right? So, and yesterday we were having quite a nice chat, a very knowledgeable person. And so are you excited to listen from him? If you're excited, type in excited on your chat box. Type in excited on your chat box. Yes? If you're excited, type in excited on your chat box. Or you can actually unmute your mic and say that as well. Maybe we can hear from you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank God, finally. Okay. Okay, great. Hi, Sasanga, good to see you. Hi, Sati, good to see you. Great. Okay, great. Vikum, good to see you. Brilliant. Okay,
I'm so super excited.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great. That's what we require. So if you're excited, do one thing. Put your hand like up like this, and put your hand at the back like this, and pat yourself. Pat yourself and say thank you for being here. You're awesome. Thank you for being here. Just say it. Okay, great. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the speaker for this evening. And I had the privilege to know him through this program, which he has attended, and my God, he has contributed a lot with the Bangladesh team he was a part of. So just a brief introduction of his. He has done his BSc in Material Management and Supply Chain from Dalian Maritime University. He has done his MSc in Projects and Operations Management from University of Bradfordshire, and did his postgraduate in Management Information System, University of Dublin, and he just finished his CSCM program, and he's the member of an Institute of Logistics and Transport, and he has worked as a trainee procurement at Fonterra Brands for 1 year and supply chain management executive at Unilever for 2.5 years, currently serving as the assistant manager supply chain planning Nestle for 2.5 years. Now, behind this introduction, if you really want to get to know this gentleman, he is superb, he's amazing, and the knowledge he brings in, he calls himself a millennial. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ishan Jayawardena, our today's speaker. Ishan, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sho, for presenting me
Good
with this
evening.
opportunity to speak today.
Problem.
So I'm really privileged to share my knowledge with the crowd here. I can see well-known faces, especially from Nestle. So I'm happy to share whatever I have today for you all. Just let me know when you can see my screen, and I hope I'm audible and clear enough.
Yes, we can see you. We can hear you as well.
Okay, so let me start off with the presentation. I don't think this is a very usual thing to do in the beginning of the presentation, but I'm going to start my slide today by asking you all a question. The question is, what's the biggest challenge for supply chains today? You can type in the chat box. I can see your responses on my screen. So just go ahead, type whatever you think it is. Whether it's the logistics, whether it's the shipping, what do you think is the biggest challenge supply chain is facing right now? Okay, so I see logistics, ensuring delivery. Any more responses? Yeah. So a lot of you think it's logistics. There's a very good reason to think that because logistics has become quite dynamic. It has been a game changer. It has been the maker and the breaker of businesses in the past year and during COVID. All of these issues put together, your logistics issues, your foreign exchange issues, your policy issues, the issues that you have with your material being available, your product going to the customer, all these issues have to do with one core element of challenges, which is known as unpredictability. So unpredictability is not a new word. This word is not something that supply chain has unheard of, but it is impacting in a way that supply chain has not previously experienced. Because we work with forecast, we like to have stability in our operation as supply chain. We like to have a certain assurance in our operations. When anything out there is unpredictable, it makes us uneasy. And as human beings, when we are pushed out of our comfort zones, we tend to grow, and we can use this unpredictability, this opportunity that is being presented to us to grow. A professor from Maryland University in the USA has come out with 4 P's that are related to unpredictability. These 4 P's are the first points of impact when a supply chain faces unpredictability. The first point of impact is the product. When I say product, it can be the deciding factor that ensures that your product is available in the shelf. It can mean that your product is being produced in your factory. It can mean the unpredictability that is caused when you ship your product from a producing market abroad to the local jurisdiction. It can be anything, but any unpredictability related to product can affect your business in a massive way. The second impact point, as you all know, is people. People are the core of supply chain. People make supply chain possible, because supply chain, as the word suggests, is a chain, is a link, is a bond, is a relationship that you have from one end to the other. So this bond is connected by people. So the efficiency of the supply chain is defined by the efficiency of and the effectivity of the people that drive this supply chain. The third point that gets impacted from unpredictability is prices. It's quite obvious. You can see the commodity prices around the world is rising, whether it's fuel, whether it's flour, whether it's commodities like rice that we locally consume, everything is on the rise. And this rise in commodity prices is affecting the consumer, his ability to purchase the good, because compared to 2 years back, you might be servicing them with the same product at a higher price. What is going to make them buy the same product that you offered them 2 years ago at a higher price today? Is it because you are making it available? If you're going through the hassle to make it available? No. So that's not going to be a deciding factor in the future. Availability alone is not going to make sure that people consume or rather purchase your product. The final factor is something that our uncles and aunties like to talk about over a drink. It's politics. So it's not the politics that you think. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with the party politics that's in a country. It actually has to do with the policies that are in place that enables this whole supply chain infrastructure. You can have the most efficient supply chain. You can have the best in class people working for you. But if from tomorrow onwards, your policies decide that you cannot exchange foreign currency between another country, how are you going to pay your suppliers? If your policies decide to close the ports down for another 1 week, how are you going to clear the shipments that you have received? How are you going to receive what goods that you are expecting? So all of these points are being impacted through unpredictability. I hope I'm clear for you all. So you can unmute yourself or just drop a question in the chat box if there's anything unclear. Since this is a small group, we can interact well and we can clear any doubts while we decide on the presentation. So how do we get out of this unpredictability? Well, the bad news is it's not going to go away. The unpredictability might reduce once everyone's vaccinated, once the pandemic goes away, but still unpredictability is here to stay. Unpredictability is going to be the only predictable thing that supply chains are going to face in the future. So does this mean we have to worry about it? We don't have to worry about it because no amount of worry can solve a problem, especially a problem like unpredictability. So today I'm going to give you four solution sets that include 15 concrete actions. These are not actions that I have come up with. These are actions that actually industry professionals, experts, like people who are invested in proper research have come up with. I've just collated this by doing research by myself. I have taken data and facts, and in each slide, I have facts and figures that support whatever things that I'm saying, because me being young, you have to be able to digest what I say. So I have put the facts and figures in the screen for you to compare for yourself. You can do research by yourself on these facts and see how best it would fit to your supply chain. So the first factor, the first solution is having a resilient mind. Your problem solving starts here. That doesn't mean you have to worry about it. You don't have to think about the problem, but you have to think about the solution from here. And resilience, this new buzzword. So I hear resilience being brought up by motivational speakers. I hear resilience being brought up by CEOs of companies. But what is resilience really? Does anyone have a clue of what resilience is? You can just type in what you think of resilience. What do you think resilience means? Is it something to do with endurance? Is it something to do with how hard you can get hit? Or what does it really mean? Just type in the chat box. I want to see some answers.
If you want, you can unmute your mic and talk about it as well. That's also allowed.
Yes, definitely.
Adaptability.
Okay, Hasini says it's adaptability. Yeah. Anyone else?
The ability to bounce back.
Okay, my friend correctly said. So we hear this phrase a lot at Nestle. So everyone at Nestle is quite familiar with resilience. So as Vikum rightly said, resilience is the ability to bounce back. Not only bounce back, but to sustain your performance. To bounce back and sustain that position when things don't go as planned. It's a simple logic that you can apply in your life, not only in your job as a supply chain professional, but you can also apply in your life. Just imagine the number of times you got beaten down. You failed to meet some deadline. You failed to meet some dream. The moment your dream dies is when you give up on your dream. A similar principle can be applied to supply chain in your day-to-day work. So in order to build resilience in your supply chain, there are 4 key factors that you need to take into consideration. So these 4 factors are not something that I came up with. It's not my own jargon that I'm trying to fill. It's actually what leaders out there think. So 93% of supply chain leaders out there working in different conglomerates are actually thinking resilience to protect supply is the number one priority in the future for supply chain. So just imagine 93% of leaders out there strategizing, setting goals, setting objectives for their companies with a resilient mindset. And if you, as a person working in your organization, does not have this resilient mindset, you will not be able to bounce back like 93% of the others do out there. So how do we achieve this resilience? First, you need to have greater control in your supply lines. I will simply put it as this. Something that comes with unpredictability is demand volatility. Today, you can sell 100 cases of fruit. Tomorrow, you might sell 10 cases of fruit. And a day later, you might sell nothing at all. So this demand unpredictability was visible in previous supply chains, but not up to this level. Right now, with COVID, with the changes happening in the external environment, demand unpredictability has gone to a different direction. Especially with things like pantry loading, where people panic buy and suddenly something that I've been selling maybe say 100 or 10 cases of is selling 1,000, maybe 10,000 cases because people are stocking in fear of losing supply. Then during a lockdown where there is very less mobility, where people can't go out, there can be a dryness in demand where you are able to supply, but there are no people out there to consume your supply. So this imbalance of demand and supply can be managed to an extent if you have greater control of your supply. I do not mean to invest in another production plant. I don't mean to invest in another factory. I don't mean to say for you to invest in another distribution center to have responsiveness, but you need to have investment in certain capacities to be resilient enough for these changes in demand. So that is having greater control in your supply. That can mean you are able to run with 10 labor today, a plant with 10 labor today. The same plant, if you want to increase the output by 20%, you should still be able to run with those 10 people. It's not about expanding the capacity that you currently have. It's about increasing the efficiencies and having greater control of the output. That is investing in capacity. That is having greater control. Second point is to diversify on your supplies. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is a good lesson, not only to apply in supply chain, but also in your lives. Diversify your supplies. If you have one person in India supplying you wool, find another supplier in China. Why not find another supplier in Egypt? Because with this COVID, with this disruption that's happening and going around the world, you don't know what might happen. Tomorrow, all the ports in India might close down. Then does it mean that you have to stop the business here in Sri Lanka? No. If you have diversified your supply, you can reach out to these multiple sources and get and ensure that your supply keeps on happening. Third point, visibility is the key. Be visible. Just imagine if you were captain of a ship and you only saw through just one tiny hole in your cabin and you didn't see anything else. You would not be able to make proper decisions. You would not know where to turn. You would not know where to go. Similarly, if your supply chain does not have visibility in the overall context, you are bound to lose. You are bound to hit the iceberg, just like the Titanic. Only thing, no one's going to make a movie about it. It's just going to be a failed attempt in your business. No one's going to make a movie about it. So be vigilant. Have that visibility in your supply chains. Put in place processes that can figure and identify these minute details, minute signals that come from the external environments to adapt it inside your supply chain. Last point is agility. Agility is more to do with responsiveness. As I talked in detail about greater control, it's the same principle to apply. So have shorter planning horizons, collaborative planning, collaborate with other people, other resources available outside of your organization. Have multiple DCs where you collate together, you have shared capacities to ship. So all this you can take into account. You can use it to increase resilience of your supply chain. Now I'm moving to the second point of the presentation, invest in digital. So this is a very interesting slide. So on to your right, you have a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona. It's one of the most prestigious, luxurious watches in the world. This piece costs about 20,000 US dollars. That's quite a sum, especially since you don't have money to buy it, even if you could. And onto your left, you have a Rolex Daytona NFT based on the actual watch that you see to your right. So the right side picture is the real thing, the real Rolex. Your left side picture is a depiction of the same thing that looks like it's been drawn by a kid. So what do you think is most expensive? The actual Rolex or the picture that you see to your left? Can anyone comment on these two? So what if you think it's the picture to your left, just type left. If you think it's the picture to your right, type right, which is the real thing. What do you think is more expensive, more valuable? Okay, Sumedha says it should be the NFT, and Shuo says it's surprisingly the picture to your left. You cannot wear it on your wrist. You cannot take it anywhere with you, but it's just a static picture that holds value. How much value, you might ask? Okay, so it actually cost 50,600 US dollars. That's how valuable that is. If you knew this before I answered this question, if you knew that this NFT to your right was almost 4 times the value of the actual thing, you are updated. You are on track. You know about technology and you know what's changing around you. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, don't be discouraged. It's never too late to learn, but you are somewhat outdated. But this is the new technology. This is how the world is going to value itself in times to come. So when I joined Nestle, digital transformation was a big buzzword. I was involved in a lot of digital dashboards, a lot of new technologies coming up. At Unilever, I was exposed to GPS, SatNav, process automation, and different other projects that are related to new technologies. To me, when I joined the organization, I thought this was the new tech, this was the future. But no, surprisingly, that's not the future. That was the future 2 years back. Now the context has changed. Now the future includes artificial intelligence. It includes machine learning. It includes quantum computing. It includes robot process automation. It includes functional automation. All these words, you might think it sounds okay. These are like glorious words. No one's going to invest $1,000 to bring this into a country like Sri Lanka. The thing is, it's going to be as affordable as a smartphone in another 5 years to come. And if you had not invested in technologies like this in another 5 years, you will be outrun by someone who has already invested in a thing like this. So, what are the 4 drivers of digital? So 66% of supply chain leaders now use more technology than 2 years back. That shows how keen people are in different organizations on learning these new technologies. So 4 drivers of digital in the next 2-3 years to come. One is AI and robotics. Artificial intelligence, I will give you a quick glance as to tell you what the difference is. So artificial intelligence simply means when you say something to the program, it knows to compute it and it knows to give out the output that you are expecting. That's the difference between artificial intelligence and computational intelligence. Computational intelligence, despite the inputs that you give, despite the expectation that you have, it will compute maybe 10, maybe 6, maybe 5,000 combinations of mathematical algorithms that has already been fed to it, and it will give you many outputs. It can be related to you, it can be nothing to do with what you're doing. Artificial intelligence knows what you want. When you speak to it, just like a human being, it knows how to identify your requirement. So what does this mean to the future of supply chain? If you're doing a process that is repeating every day, if every morning, if you're typing a report and if you're sending the same email on and on and on, and if that's a very big part of your job, it's time to reskill yourself. These automated processes are going to come in. They are going to be very affordable. They are going to be so affordable that even you and I will be able to use artificial intelligence for our domestic purposes. If you don't believe me, take your smartphone and press on that power button for a while, and you will see an assistant popping up. That's artificial intelligence. So you and I are now able to afford artificial intelligence. So how far do you think our companies from adapting these large scale users of artificial intelligence? Second point, partner wisely. There are experts who are working on artificial intelligence. There are experts who are working on e-commerce, who are working on robotics, who are working on automation. Partner with them wisely. This new economy, this new ways of working, Industry 5.0 is not a sole survivor. It's not a lone wolf running out there hunting its prey. It's actually a pack of wolves. It's partnerships that are made wisely in the right time that makes and that will be sustaining businesses for the future. Why I'm saying this? You have to partner wisely with new startups who are exploring areas like this in data management, in data analytics, so that you don't really have to invest in a whole new set of people who are going to work uh, exclusively for digitalization projects in your organization. Rather outsource it to a person who is already an expert. He will be able to give you better results in a shorter time. So that is to partner wisely. Third point, e-commerce is the future of retail. We saw even you and me, we were ordering on all these apps when the country was locked down. We never expected to do that in such a short time, but everyone adapted. Everyone, including the guy who has a smartphone, the guy without a smartphone, everybody adapted. Then they started ordering on e-commerce like crazy. When I say crazy, you should see the way my mother and my aunt orders on e-commerce. You will know crazy then. So e-commerce people have adapted like that, and the rate at which it's growing is just unimaginable. Supply chain 5.0 is looking to strike a balance between people and machine. Machine is not going to replace your job. It's going to make your job easier. It's going to aid you. It's going to help you perform better. It's going to help you perform the task that you were doing in 10 minutes, maybe within 10 seconds. So we have to change our mindset, adapt to these new digital technologies, invest in learning about these new digital technologies, because otherwise your skills will be outdated in another 2, 3 years to come. So far, does anyone have any questions? I have a silent audience. So if there are any questions, you can shoot them up on the chat box. I can answer them before moving into my third point. Okay, if there are no questions, so I'll move on to my third point. So now you have a resilient mindset. You have the tools, the futuristic tools to invest, and you have the tools in your hands to make your job easier. So what more do you need? You need to create value to your business. Having a brain, having the tools, and sitting on your chair is not going to help the business. So you need to identify the value of supply chain. Senior leaders in supply chain and professionals in supply chain say 85% of them say that the voice of supply chain has increased immensely within the last 2 years. It's mainly to do with COVID, because we are at such an operational point to support the business in terms of sourcing, in terms of making products available. The business started understanding the value of supply chain. It's true not only to Nestle, the company I work in. It's true for any company in this world. The business really started understanding our role as supply chain within the business environment. What does this mean to us? That means our voice is being heard better than before, which means we have the opportunity to raise our voice and make a difference in things that we see fit. As I said, the cost of goods have been increasing immensely, and this is increasing at a rate where it's no longer manageable. So there's a heavy margin squeeze where the profitability of our products are affected heavily. So supply chain is expected to define and deliver value in better ways by replacing the materials that we've been previously using, replacing it with a more cost-effective option, replacing it with a more efficient option, things like that. So with this margin squeeze, we have a very high cost pressure as professionals in supply chain, and we are expected to innovate and define our value within the supply chain community day by day. So in order to do this, you need to be able to differentiate your source, differentiate your product from those of your competitors. How do you do that? How does a person in supply chain do that? By differentiating the source of supply. I'll give you a good example. So let's say I'm using ultra heat treated milk, fresh milk. I drink a glass of milk every day in the morning before I go to work. There are 7 companies in Sri Lanka producing that glass of milk. So what makes me purchase a glass of milk from Nestle as compared to some other company? I should be able to differentiate the source and create that competitive advantage in the eyes of my consumer. As supply chain, if I'm able to find a more sustainable, a more valuable, a source which contributes to this planet, creates purpose to my consumers more, it will help me differentiate my product better in the market. That's how supply chain will contribute in the future to the marketing strategies of the company. My third and last point is to exceed shopper expectation. Long has gone the day where we were to meet the shopper expectation. Meeting my buyer's expectation no longer works. You need to actually know what I want in the future, and you need to exceed what I need right now. The first iPhone that came out, when Steve Jobs held it in his pocket and took it out and showed it to his audience didn't know what to expect. His audience didn't know they needed a colored touchscreen for a phone, because they were used for these buttons and different other mechanisms to communicate in the phone. Steve Jobs exceeded the expectation of his consumers, and to date, his company has been delivering more than what the consumers have been expecting. And that is the success of Apple. That will be the success of your organization if you want to sustain your business. And how supply chain is going to contribute to exceeding shopper expectation? Again, diversifying, differentiating, and creating a faster, simpler, and better process in the supply chain to deliver a better product to the future. My fourth and last point is sustainability. So this is a very controversial topic. The US president who was appointed before Biden, Donald Trump, thought environmental the disasters that we had, things like global warming, was a hoax. The president of the United States thought it was a hoax. So we operate in an environment like that. So it's really hard to drive this message in communities, especially in a country like Sri Lanka. So I suggest you to watch this movie. It's called Don't Look Up. It recently came in Netflix. It shows how the media plays certain fiascos to bring out or rather drown the ugly truth of the world changing around us. I'm not asking you to, leave your job, be an environmental activist, but build within yourself a purpose to do something for the community, for the environment, have sustainable goals that will help you exceed in your career. And that purpose will help you drive further, drive more than you can deliver as a regular, mundane supply chain professional. So in terms of having sustainability, having sustainable policies within an organization, it's going to be driven by a very high level. But how can I or you as a supply chain professional support these sustainable policies? First one, we can support by accelerating development. Let's say from tomorrow onwards, I want to replace my plastic yogurt cup with a complete paper cup. So it's going to replace all the plastic yogurt cups that I have within my premises, and I'm going to go for a completely new design. As a supply chain professional, I should have observed who are the suppliers that are capable of doing this, who are capable of supplying a paper cup rather than a plastic cup, even before the organization takes a step, makes a move to think about it. Because the guys in marketing, they are in their own silos. They will only look at business strategy when there's a signal from the external environment, we as supply chain, if we wait for that signal to come from our stakeholders, it will be too late. So observe all the trends around you. Look at the new trends coming up. There are washable plastics. There are biodegradable cardboards. There are waterproof polymex materials. So all of these new technologies that are coming up, you invest some time in them, invest in these technologies, learn about these new technologies and learn about these suppliers. So when it's time to develop, you can accelerate your development, and you can use that development as a scale of promoting sustainability in this growing environment and to support your business. Second point is on circularity: reuse, recycle, and rescale wherever possible. So I will give a very good example that I came across when I was working at Unilever. So when I joined Unilever, I was a very junior executive who had no real experience in logistics. The only logistics I knew was from the books that I read when I was at university. And logistics for me was a truck going by, taking a set of boxes from point A to point B. When I went to their distribution center, the first project I was given is to eliminate about 80% of the plastic waste that is being generated inside the DC. So I was given a task and I was really not sure of what I needed to do. When I went inside the DC the first day, I saw shrink wraps, plastic wraps being wrapped around these cardboard boxes to stop them from falling down from the racks. So I was just wondering what sort of a stupid idea is this? You're going to wrap it around in a polythene wrap and you're going to throw it away the next day, and this is going to harm the environment. Not only it's going to harm the environment, but you're spending on something that you're going to throw in a day or two. So it doesn't make sense at all. So I actually went on the internet because I did not have any resources back then, because I was a very junior guy. I didn't know whom to talk to regarding this. So I went on the internet and I searched for some solutions, and I actually came across this magnificent uh, solution called a shrink wrap, pun intended. So there is actually a wrap that's made out of cloth that has a buckle and a belt that you put around these boxes from two ways, horizontally and vertically, that will help you sustain the structure of the box. This is reusable multiple times. You can it's made out of a very hard twine, so you can use it multiple times, unlike the shrink wrap that you use. And this reusability will generate not only a benefit for the environment, but as a company, it will help you gain income by getting rid of an unwanted cost. So look at it from a circularity mindset. Think, challenge the current policies, the current practices that you all have in your work environment, and see where you can make a difference and make an impact, not only in your organization, but also in the planet. The two last points: one is sustainable logistics. So, sustainable logistics again is going to be a very hot topic. Tesla is coming up with their own electric fleet that's going to replace their current uh, fossil fuel dependent fleet fully. So 1,000 electric trucks is going to come out of Tesla, transporting their components, transporting their automotive parts from one factory to another. So that means their whole logistics chain, the transport chain, is going to be run on electricity. So think of ways where you can adapt these new technologies to your transportation. It doesn't have to be that you replace your whole fleet with electric trucks tomorrow, but invest in one truck and see what sort of a benefit it brings out. It can have a massive impact in your distribution costs, because fuel, when the prices go up and down, it might affect you right now. But if you replace this one variable, and if you replace it with an electric truck, you might be able to see a benefit in it. And if it's beneficial for you, if it's right for you, if it's the right model for you, you can invest it in further and replace your whole fleet just like Tesla did. Last point: sustainability is going to be a big marketing factor in the future. I know I know a lot of vegans. I know a lot of friends who are vegans compared to the number of friends that I mother know as vegans. So that means the generation, as it as it evolves, as it thinks about these external environmental factors like animal cruelty. They think about gluten free. They think what's healthy for your body. So people are going to move away from anything that's toxic. And if they think a company called A is producing stocks from coal and it's emitting toxic gases to the environment, and if it thinks it's time to move away from this company, your business is done. One social media influencer can take your product and tear it into pieces and say these guys are not environmental friendly, these guys are harming animals, these guys are testing on animals. Your business is done. That's how impactful social media is right now. And all these influencers have one thing in common: they communicate. Just like that, if your organization is investing on something like this, you have to communicate to your customers. You have to let your customers know that you're doing this. This was a very successful project that Milo undertook, Milo RTD. We replaced the plastic straw completely by paper straw. We received many good feedback from people, especially people my age, who actually thought of this gesture as a step towards the right way. So you have to market and communicate your sustainable policies. So that concludes my four solutions. And in the beginning, I showed you this slide, the effects of unpredictability on your product, on people, on prices, and on your policies. So get out of this mindset. I gave you four solutions that is going to replace these four problems while facing this unpredictability that the world has to offer: digital evolution, resilience, sustainable policies, and value creation. These four areas, along with the 15 solutions that I provided, if you can implement at least one starting from tomorrow at your organization, in your life, even in your personal life, if you can develop a resilient mindset, you will grow. Believe me. So thank you everyone for joining in for today's session. Thank you, Shuo, for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Sati, who actually motivated me, who actually encouraged me to pursue this wonderful course. So I will give you guys a bit of an insight on this ISCEA qualification. I have a background in supply chain. So my bachelor's was actually evolved around this supply chain program, where I went into very theoretical details in supply chain. Still, even after 4 years in my bachelor's and 6 years as a supply chain professional, I had a whole new perspective on supply chain after I did this program. It gave me a booster. It actually enlightened my knowledge. It gave me a fresh perspective on supply chain. So I think it's a valuable program for you all to follow. So I'm not paid to tell you this, but it is actually very much valuable. I'm telling wholeheartedly because I gained a lot of insights from it. So that concludes my session today, and I would like to close with this remark. So we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. If you are able to implement one of these things that I mentioned, 1 out of 15 things that I mentioned, if you are able to sustain that one thing for another year, you will be more successful than a man who implements all 15 and stops doing it in another month. So thank you everyone for joining in. Have a nice night, a pleasant night.
Wow, Ishan, thank you so much. That was amazing. Can we see you? Don't off your camera. We would like to see you. Yes. So brilliant. Thank you so much. You know, I'm standing here. I could feel the energy, what you shared just now. And I would like to thank you for especially encouraging everybody to join CSCM. And it was such a genuine recommendation. It was really from the heart. I felt it. Thank you so much. And of course, while you're talking about AI, I got my mobile and pressed it. And guess what? Siri showed up. So I never thought that I'm actually carrying a mobile phone in that respect. So ladies and gentlemen, so that's how Ishan is. I told you but this gentleman is very knowledgeable. So at the end of the session, I'm sure now we know what Tesla is doing. Now we know what digitization, what kind of impact it can have, and what are the 4 areas we need to look into in different ways. Thank you very much. You deserve a round of applause, Ishan. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't finish here. So, if you have any question, this is your opportunity to ask. So, can I invite Sati to ask the first question, or maybe you can share how are you feeling right now, seeing Ishan presenting.
Thanks, Shivu. I think it was a fantastic presentation, and yeah, so resilience supply chain is the buzzword today. I mean, Ishan knows. I mean, last week we went through a new crisis because today is a very challenging external environment, and so always crisis gives opportunities. Never let good crisis go waste. That's how we look at it. And so today I would say, even though last Friday we looked at it as a crisis, today when the team came out with solutions, we saw a lot of opportunities. There were opportunities to optimize cost, mitigate risk, and so on. So all crisis gives opportunity to transform and adapt. And it's all about mindset. So I think Ishan very nicely put it. And also on the digitalization and automation, I think today with the challenging external environment, most of the supply chain professionals are looking at new supply chain models, and the digitalization and automation is going to play a major role. So fantastic presentation, Ishan, and yeah, thanks, Shivu.
So thank you very much, Sati, for your input. And then I love the simplicity of it. And supply chain is all about making sense, making sense out of common sense. So Ishan has demonstrated that very well. So if you have any question, I know most of you are Ishan's colleague. So if you have any question about, you always wanted to ask him. So this is an opportunity to ask, so he can reply to that. You can unmute your mic and go ahead and ask the question. Anybody would like to ask a question? Sasanka, any question? Vikum? Pradeep? So all this, okay, I have a question, Ishan. So all these 4 areas, what you look at, right? What to implement this, what kind of mindset the leaders must have in an organization?
In one word, the show, it's resilience. Again,
resilience. So I know you're going to say that, but I want you to elaborate a bit. What do you, I know you have touched upon it, but if you want to give an example, how would you do that? How do you do it in Nestle? I know one of your colleagues already immediately replied what resilience means. So if you can share it with us.
So unpredictability is like a bitter truth in supply chain. It's something that you want to face, but you don't want to face at the same time. And it's something that the world is imposing on you. You have to face it. You have to face this challenge. You have to face this new thing. So I think as leaders, we should be able to adapt into all these changes. We should be able to absorb while keeping true to whatever principles that we have formed as human beings. It does not mean when a new technology comes to fire the person who is currently doing it and adapt it whole, completely implement it. It's to strike a balance between the new adaptation and what you previously had. It's to strike the balance between those two. So I think it's an important factor to think about people, and especially during this pandemic, it has taught us the value of having relationships, having people close to us. That has helped me pull through this pandemic. I would say quite successfully. The take home from it is actually to adapt as a leader and to make way for the people who are going to make your life easier for you. So that's my message.
Great. Yeah, actually, you're so right. Actually, technology is here to enable us, not to cripple us. and you touched on a very important point that, okay, technology is here doesn't mean that you'll get fired, you'll be replaced. But that's the fear factor most of us we have, given the new way of doing things, right? Okay, great. So any other question?
Yeah, I got one. I'm Sumedh here. Actually, I totally coming from a technical background, so
Yes.
I don't know much about
Go ahead.
supply chain. So my question is mostly about, like you mentioned, the very relative areas in the technologies like AI, ML, and even NFTs. So if you like from where you sit, if you prioritize all these technology, in the ideal world, we should have everything. But if you see as a priority, in an order of priority, which one you think like the most relevant at this point of time?
Okay, so thanks, Sumedh, for the question. So personally, I think artificial intelligence is something that's way ahead of us that we really still don't understand, because the algorithms that still enable artificial intelligence are written by coders, programmers that are working in the backend. Actual artificial intelligence should be something that happens spontaneously when you insert just one program into a certain AI interface. So artificial intelligence that we see right now has a long way to go. But machine learning is something really interesting, and that's happening real time. A lot of people are adapting to it. I think machine learning is the way to go, because I'll give you one example. Just by adapting an IoT sensor to an existing production line can increase your efficiency by 35%. This is not something that I say. This is something that industry professionals say, because the rate at which errors are being detected by these 5G transmitters are exceptional. It's something that if you recruit 1,000 human beings into a single line, they will not be able to catch up. So these kind of small investments in machine learning, in adaptive learning, if you can make these investments now in your production, you will definitely reap the benefits from it in the future. Because machine learning, the beauty of it, the machine, when you use it, the more you use it, it learns itself and it adapts to it, and the efficiency increases day by day. So if I think machine learning is the way to go.
Right. Thanks, Ishan. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, one thing I liked you touched on regarding Steve Jobs, that customer needs. When he showed the mobile, he said it's a three function in one device, and nobody knew that it's possible until he showed it, right? That's why Apple is considered to be the first $1 trillion company, because they did in the world, basically. So that's what helped them to distinguish themselves from others. It was a very good example. So would you suggest to buy the technology or machine earlier at this point, because later on it's going to be expensive, because the more that the days go by, technology the prices always go up. iPhone 1 and iPhone 13, it's a huge difference. So would you recommend to buy? I know you have recommended just now. So would you say that, okay, you're going to invest now so that you can save money later, or what do you do when the upgrade happens?
So sure, the whole idea of having machine learning is to make technology more affordable to companies, especially small, medium enterprises where you only serve a niche of customers. The future might be more affordable than today. That's going to be the difference between the technology in the past and the technology of the future. So it's going to be affordable for you and me. The point at which you invest will actually depend on the scale of operations that you're operating in. For a large manufacturer like Nestle locally, it might be feasible for you to invest in something like machine learning now. But if you are some guy who's, let's say, making 100 cases of milk packets in your own home, it's not really wise for you to make that investment now, because that technology will be much more affordable for you in another 5 years' time. So it's going to be a trade-off between whether you want to adapt to it and whether the value that you get from it is justifiable enough with the investment.
Great, that makes so sense. So ladies and gentlemen, any other question? Please go ahead and ask.
So Shubha, I'll ask one question from Ishan. Ishan, on behalf of the youngsters in the audience, I want to ask this question.
You mean you and me, right, Sati?
Yeah,
Yes,
including
yes.
both of us.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning.
Yeah. So, Ishant, I think yesterday when Shuvo had a review with you on this presentation, one thing he made a comment about you is that you are very knowledgeable. And today also I saw at least 3-4 times Shuvo reporting that Ishan is very knowledgeable. Now, I can see in the screen it says excellence is not an act but a habit. What are your habits that helped you to build such a amazing knowledge? Because I see a big difference at your age. You have, I mean, I fully agree with Shuvo. You are quite knowledgeable. I mean, fantastic knowledge you have. So if you can just share your habits.
Yeah, thanks, Sati. So my biggest habit, I would say, is loving things unconditionally. Whether it's my job, whether it's my passion, which is music, whether it's my passion, which is IT, information systems, I love it unconditionally. So I have this thing where I develop very deep relationships with human beings. This, in a similar way, I develop a very deep, meaningful relationship with the things I love that does not have a physical sense, like whether it be IT, whether it be futuristic technology. So I think that that relationship, that passion I developed towards certain things, like my career, has really helped me do things without putting in much effort. So it's a effortless job. I don't feel very tired after a long days of work because I love what I do. So I think that's the secret. And yeah.
Wow. Nice. Very nice. I love the answer. Yeah, Sati, you got to say something.
No. Thanks, Ishan. It was a fantastic answer and I love
Great.
it. Thank you.
Here I am expecting a very heavy question about supply chain. And then Sati goes and asks a very close to heart question. Thank you, Sati, for that question. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So because leaders always create leaders, they don't create followers. So that's what. So great. So any other question, ladies and gentlemen? Please go ahead. A last question. Going once, going twice. Okay, go on. Okay, great. Ishan, can I request you to stop sharing the this thing, because we're going to take a. Okay, I get to know that today is our 11th. You are our 11th speaker. So we want to take a group picture. 11th supply chain transformation webinar we are having here. So can I request you to on your camera, we'll just take a quick picture of the group. Others, if you can just on your camera. Thank you, Hashani. Thank you. Thank you, Sati. Great. Okay. Sashi, will you take the picture? Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, Dinesh. Udani, can you take a screenshot? Great. Just put your thumbs up if you can. Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So we will put the registration link for our CSCM program, which is happening end of this month starting. You can go ahead and register, and then we will get back to you with the detail. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of the session, our 11th supply chain transformation webinar, many more to come. And we would actually spoken to Ishan. We have another session called what you call program. What we do is called rapid fire with supply chain. So we want to do a special edition on digitization with Ishan. So Ishan will get back to you. Look out for that video. It's going to be a 10 minutes video. and we'll ask him 5 different questions so that he can contribute to what are the changes happening. So we will definitely work on that, and we'll get back to you with that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. It has been a privilege and honor to serve all of you today evening. Ishan, really appreciate your presence. And this is just the beginning. I know you will do wonders in this community, and you will have a very positive impact. And Sati, thank you very much for your presence. I know you're quite busy, but you're here with your team, and that shows what kind of leader you are. Thank you so much. So with that, my team, thank you so much for being here. And then there are 2 ladies who are helping, Udani and Sashika. Thank you so much for your contribution. And we just finished our 11th supply chain transformation program. Thank you so much for, as I said, when you make a decision, that decision will take split seconds, but that can definitely change your destiny. So always keep on making decision and build that muscle of decision making that will help you to make your dream into reality. Thank you. This is Shubho signing off until we meet again next one. Thank you.
The most profitable companies in the world have learned to use their supply chains to keep goods and services flowing into the marketplace. But supply chain processes are only as good as the people who keep them running. Supply chain employment opportunities are constantly being created, and ISCEA certified professionals are getting the best paid jobs. If you wish to become a sound supply chain professional and gain real-world experience and knowledge, then ISCEA is your one-stop source for supply chain education, certification, and recognition. ISCEA is the International Supply Chain Education Alliance. We were the first organization certifying supply chain professionals around the globe, and we remain the worldwide authoritative resource for supply chain career validation, with thousands of certificate holders commanding top-tier salaries. Our certification programs are aligned with best practices and industry-proven standards. They bring together academic research advances and innovative industry trends, validating that you have the knowledge used by top companies to remain competitive in an ever-changing business environment. For your company, that translates into significant cost reductions, faster revenue growth, and a collaborative teamwork environment. For your career, it means exceeding everyone's expectations and taking control of your future. So, what are you waiting for? Stand out from the crowd and take your career to the next level with an ISCEA internationally recognized supply chain certification.